Thank you for this opportunity, Lizana, to speak at this conference about leading mental health and well-being in schools. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's a time to recognize the mental health challenges that many in our societies face. For educators, mental health and well-being now it can no longer be at the fringe of what we do. It must be central to it. The work must be central to it. And we don't need to go, we all know what the situation is. But despite these challenges, there are fundamental strategies, which is a key point of my talk today, that we can all exercise to maintain. How can we work to maintain the mental health and well-being? So, for example, one powerful technique that can help us move forward when we feel stuck is understanding the importance of the meaning that we attach to events and to situations. The way that we interpret an event shapes our emotional response to it. And by attributing positive and empowering messages related to resilience and growth, we can navigate periods when we feel stuck, recognizing that the growth occurs in the process. So there's this book, Emotional Agility. I don't know if you can see that. Emotional Agility. It's by Susan David. She uses the term the messy middle to describe moments of uncertainty when we're faced with doubts and can't quite see what's going on, but if we decide to embrace this messy middle and start reaching out and making networks like what, Yamina was talking about, this is when our growth and creativity is at a peak, and some of our best ideas, come from this time. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Purvi or V Ghandi, and I am a chartered psychologist and an educator. I've had the privilege of working as a clinician, specializing in the treatment of mental health and substance abuse in the USA before transitioning to teaching in the UK. I have over 20 years of experience in middle leadership roles, both in the state sector and the independent sectors. I've taught college courses, university, undergraduate courses, conducted many research projects in schools, delivered insights. I'm a member of Women Ed and Diverse Ed, BAMED, and the fellow of Chartered College of Teaching. And besides presenting at conferences, which is something that I'm just getting into, I've written several journal articles, book chapters about leadership and mental health, and most recently, I've also authored a little book to help teachers enhance mental health in classrooms. I am absolutely passionate about mental health. It is my ikigai. It is absolutely at the core of what I do. So the aims and objectives of our talk today, what I'd like us to do is work together. I'll put a few things for us to think about. Maybe we can use a chat function I don't know how I said that, but yeah, there we go. Maybe we can use the chat function to kind of discuss, share some thoughts. So the aims of today's session is to look at how to define mental health and well-being. We'll explore the what, the who, and the how of leading mental health and well-being in schools, so that what Amjad Ali was talking about yesterday in his talk, the importance of so that, what is the point of it, so that we can all contribute to better mental health and well-being. So using the chat function, just maybe everybody can participate. Let me know, just what does mental health and well-being mean to you? What do you understand by those terms?
I could tell you what I think. I was just saying, I think it's a lifelong commitment to try and have balance and also understand how to support yourself to be well, both physically and mentally, because I think that you connect and it's getting the balance right with that. And sometimes when you're busy and working, it's far more difficult to achieve.
So yeah, balance. That's an interesting thing. It is a long question. And, when you're in there, sometimes I lose perception of time. So I might be rushing quickly, or do please let me know. Mental health and thank you, Jennifer. Mental health and well-being is trying to consider my mental well-being in the same way that I do my physical well-being. Yes, that's very much aligned with what I think as well. So maybe we can tell you there's very many theories and ideas and definitions that surround mental health. And I will share the one that I find quite useful and the one that I use in my book. This is by the World Health Organization, this definition of mental health and well-being. I find it quite useful. So in this presentation, I will be using terms like mental health, mental fitness, psychological fitness, all interchangeably. Thank you, Anika. Navigate work and life's ups and downs, allows you to stay balanced. Yes, without causing disruption. Yeah, so that's a lot of it links with this definition. So this is the 2022 definition, and the World Health Organization suggests that Jennifer, so is realizing own abilities, can coping with the normal stresses of life. So normal stresses of life, what is that? It is what the perception of demands, when the perception of demands are greater than our perception of resources that we have, we can say that is a stressful situation. So, but it could be perception. It may not be real. So it's kind of like saying, oh, I want to go for the senior leadership position, but I don't have the resources. I don't have the know-how. I don't have the, so that would be something that might be a source of stress. Working productively, fruitfully, and obviously contributing to the communities. These are 4 things, generally well-being. And then defining mental health and well-being in terms, so mental health underpins. Mental health is one integral component of well-being, and it is what underpins our individual and collective abilities to make decisions, build relationships, and have some control over the world that we live in, to shape the world that we live in. Okay, so just another quick little thinking. Bearing those few things, so maybe the 4 things: abilities, and abilities, stress, working fruitfully and productively, and the community. In what ways do you think, as leaders and educators, how do you encourage? Maybe we could just think about, how do we encourage the mental health of our schools, of our families, of ourselves? How do we do those things? So abilities, enhancing our own abilities, managing the stresses, so the demands and the resources. How do we work fruitfully and productively? And how do we contribute to our communities? Now, it's important, one of the things, hang on a second, one of the things, it is important, like physical health, it's important to remember that mental health and well-being is not, it's not a fixed point, right? It is a journey, and it requires attention, and it requires exercise and regular practice, much like physical fitness. So in terms of leadership then, in what ways can leaders promote mental health and well-being in school? What are some of the things, maybe we can use this in the chat, what are some of the things that leaders can do to enhance mental health and well-being in schools? What do you think? Here's some of the things that I thought. Okay, important to have it on the agenda. Yes, talk about it, so that we can foster a culture that promotes the mental health in the entire school community. And that can be something that it could be that promotes the aims of the whole school community. It can involve a leadership style that values open communication, empathy, to create an environment that's safe and empowering. A leadership style that gives space for development, not in terms of just knowledge and competence, but also in terms of autonomy, which is underpinned by strong and supportive relationships, much like the kind of relationships that Yamina was talking about in her leadership role. In other words, ethical leadership. What was the purpose of our meeting at the Chartered College, Mueller and Cook, that was promoted by the Chartered College. Operationally, this might involve looking something like, having a wellbeing charter. So this is really good. Yes, having a wellbeing charter in school. So having policies, and initiatives, implementing and supporting these initiatives, providing resources, allocating those for promotion, prevention, and intervention of mental health. So putting those kind of measures in place and then developing those expertise. What Amjad Ali was talking about, really appropriate CPD. But for me, mainly being invested in the relationships. Safe space for open communication, absolutely. That kind of, because if we are going to develop our fitness, then safety and a sense of belongingness needs to be, it is pretty crucial. Now, here's another question. Then whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it? This is what I find quite interesting, because one of the things, that Yamina said that I wrote down here is she said, I don't need anybody's permission to lead. I'm already a leader. Yes, absolutely. It's everyone. So in a school, well-being is everyone's responsibility. So in a school, you would look at like students as leaders. They are the key stakeholders in this thing. They can promote a positive school culture, support their peers, advocate for their own mental health needs, participate in awareness campaigns and initiatives. They are absolutely paramount for any success of inclusive school environments. But there is a caveat, students themselves, is important for teachers and parents and the leaders in school to kind of help them navigate the conversation, making sure that it is about mental health. And when the conversations are getting a little bit off track, then they're brought back. And when they're asking for help, that support is available for them. For teachers and staff, every single one of us, all of the educators, we're frontline in supporting our students' mental health. A trusted adult who can provide emotional support, guidance, referrals if more support is needed. Teachers and staff who could provide, develop CPD opportunities and equip others to recognize the signs of distress and how to respond effectively to mental health concerns, but also promote the mental health, those 4 things within our classrooms, in our practice, when we're on duty, when we're writing our reports, when we're writing our schemes of work. How are we doing those 4 things? How are we enhancing ability, helping our students, giving our students the resources to help them deal with the demands of whatever, we're asking them of them, to help them to work fruitfully and productively, and to help them, to let them know that they matter and they have a contribution to make in the community. PSHE and pastoral staff, the deputy, the designated safeguarding lead, all of these are key players. Parents and guardians, these are important partners because they're leaders in terms of, they are influencers because they will promote open communication. They can advocate for the children's needs. They can seek out resources. As school leaders, we can support that part, that aspect by strengthening, by giving them parent education programs, strengthening the opportunities for parental involvement to school-based mental health initiatives. This can also strengthen the homeschool kind of support. And then community stakeholders, local health government agencies, health promotion agencies, mental health professionals, they can all play a vital role in enhancing the resources, promoting mental health community-wide. Essential to it all is a school senior leadership team. I think they're central because they are central in supporting and coordinating resources, mental health initiatives, services, curriculums. They are absolutely key in developing policies and procedures, and providing that leadership. Their circle of, the circle of influence is wider. So they are absolutely key. And then the third element of my talk is how the process of leadership, mental health, and well-being. How can we develop that? How do I develop that in my classroom? How do I develop that expertise? Well, through research. But what does it mean when I say engaging in research? What does it mean? What does that mean to you? Because that's another element. Research, people think of research and they think of different things. What do you think of when I say engaging in research? But what I mean with research is evidence-based policies and practices. So research that can inform the development and implementation, reading and engaging current research, yeah, but also conducting it in the classroom. So it's engaging. Thank you, and thank you, Jennifer. It's engaging in that kind of work, where the strategies that you choose has strong foundations. It's got a strong evidence base. It's supported by empirical evidence, but then you also use a continuous improvement cycle to evaluate the work that you're doing within your own context. So as educators, we need to examine the various theories and resources out there. We need to test out the realistic and appropriate ones in our classrooms, in our context, with our students, with our own personalities and our own abilities. And then that's the only way we can then assess the impact. That's the only way we'll be able to evaluate their worth. Now, if a strategy is effective, then we need to think about, how do I embed it in everything that I do? If not, can it be tweaked? Can we try it again? Can we try a different one? And then, did we learn anything? Using that research, the continuous improvement cycle, did we learn anything about how we can improve our leadership of mental health and well-being? And then, of course, the collaboration, because that's to share knowledge. Now, in my work, in everything that I've done over the past 20 years, I found that process of reading, action, evaluation, modification of mental health, not only enhances the mental health of my students, but also of the educators who do this. I've mentioned loads and loads of strategies in my little book. So, there's loads out there, and they're all kind of tried and tested in my setting for the past decade. Not just with me, I've also trained others to do it. And I found that consistently, it not only enhances the well-being of the students, but also of the teachers and the leaders themselves. It is a virtuous cycle. It can be messy, but like I said earlier, messy, but meaningful, both personally and professionally. So, but we're not alone when we're doing this work. We're not alone. There are loads and loads of supportive communities. There supportive communities like the Carnegie Center of Mental Health in Schools, the Chartered College of Teaching have some resources, the Association of Child and Adolescent Mental Health. They have loads of courses. And then Action for Happiness is also free, and you can attend loads of courses there. So you can donate if you want. That's available. There's also coaches available, like Bucky. She's also Bucky Yusuf mentioned earlier. She's written a book about mental health. There is Claire Erasmus, also in Women Ed. Rachel Kobelecki is a great coach. Andrew Cowley as well. Emma Kell, staff well-being. She's written a book about staff well-being. And there's loads of online resources as well, like Anna Freud Foundation, and my books. There is loads out there. So there is a lot of work to be done. There is a lot of work to be done, but by doing this, we will feel better. It will help with retention of staff. Certainly has done with me. And Jill Berry in the first day talked about leadership being about influencing through excellent communication, relationships, and values and knowledge-driven action. My view is aligned with those messages as well. As educators, we are in a strong position to foster this in our classroom. And we can all take steps within whatever role we have. We're all leaders. We can all have that circle of influence to enhance the mental health and well-being. And by doing this, educators, we are in a strong position to influence the mental health of our students and our school communities, and then society as a whole. And I think, and by doing that, our own mental health. So, you know, I hope that I've been able to share some interesting things with you, and that um that there's ongoing engagement and learning of mental health leadership. But I wonder if we could just, you don't have to write this on the chat if you don't want to, but reflect on one step that you can take to answer this call to action of enhancing and leading mental health in education. So those four things: and building capacity, ability, which is it is leader building ability. How are we going to help our students, our families, ourselves manage the demands and the resources that we have? What are the steps that we can do? How are we going to work in a fruitful, productive way and contribute to our communities? My little book has got is for teachers, and it is lots and lots of ideas about how we can do each one of these things in the classroom. So, chapter 1 talks about building strength and ability. Chapter 2 then talks about chapter 2 talks about strength and ability. Chapter 1 is an introduction. Chapter 3 talks about stress. Chapter 4 talks about motivation, so that we can help work productively, and what intrinsic motivation is. And then chapter 5 is about social influence. So that's all I have today for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lizanna, for the opportunity to speak here. And thank you, everybody, for engaging.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Purvi. It's always so nice to hear your reflections on the importance of mental health and well-being. And very well done. I know that these are big steps. Again, being 10% braver, to eliminate motto, to do keynotes and to talk to people about your work. And I was wondering, I had a little look at your book, obviously, because you kindly gave me a copy and signed it, which I was really pleased about. And I looked at on page 74, you have this really lovely gradient where you say, we need to look at that as a sort of a way to give us some guidance on when people are struggling, coping, or thriving. And do you think that school leaders, or educational leaders for that matter, we actually need to use that gradient when we work with every person around us and think, how are we doing today? And how can we really make sure we nurture people and we care for them to do what's best for them? Because I think it's one of those things we often rush through our days, but actually there's so much more we can do.
Absolutely. I think one of the things about this book, so this book is based on a course that I've written for building mental fitness. And I've shared this with many people. A lot of my friends are parents. They're not educators. They're leaders in industry, and they've all said how applicable everything in here is in terms of leadership. We were talking about that in the classroom. The principles of leadership, the principles of mental health remain the same. Whether it's in industry or whether you're a school leader with your team, whether you're a parent with your children, all of these are absolutely, I think they are applicable. So that table on page 74, it is in terms of, this is definitely something that I would, school leaders can use. You can see sometimes, when somebody's thriving, when they're coping, when they're struggling outwardly. And then, of course, if you've got those relationships, and you can find out what's really going on and offer support.
Absolutely. And the word struggling struck me as well. It reminded me of Suzanne Colshaw's PhD that she did on why teachers struggle. And she looked at the word struggle from the Buddhist perspective, that looks at it as someone being fractured. So someone needing care, needing time to heal, which I thought is a really healthy way of looking at, struggling. Struggling doesn't mean people cannot cope in terms of doing their work. It means that something else needs to be put in place to enable them to heal, to get better. And I thought,
Yes.
that was just a powerful way of conveying that thinking from Suzanne.
Yes, yes, that is. And also, when we talk about, and that was in the beginning when I was talking about the messy middle,
Yeah,
that is struggling, but a lot of growth comes from that. I love the concept of trauma, even growing from adversity, post-traumatic growth. When
yeah,
I was feeling very, very stuck in my educational career, I as you know, Lizanne, I told you that I've just been within my classroom, within the four walls of
yeah,
my classroom. It's only very recently that I've actually put my head up. Um, it is during that time, when I was feeling stuck, when I
yeah.
was in that messy middle, didn't know where I was going, struggling, and when I reached out with Women Ed and I reached out and that's when the best ideas came. That's where the best ideas came from, really.
Exactly. It just shows you the power of networking, as they also refer to on day one, which I sadly couldn't attend, but did watch back. But just that connection with people is so important and really caring. And as you've said, I've tweeted that for you so that you can retweet, having that sort of safe space where people can really flourish. So I'm going to just ask any questions from colleagues. Jennifer, I saw a little heart pop up at some point. Is there anything you want to ask or say?
No, just I was just hearting your comment really about the idea that people do struggle sometimes. Uh, it's just a statement really rather than a question. But I just think in the same way that you do have physical challenges, you have flu, you might break your leg. Nobody judges your lifetime performance on those things. And so I really like the idea that normalizing the idea that we won't feel mentally always on our game, top of our game all the time. And that's all that's needed in the same way as a cold, flu, broken leg. Is we just need a little bit of time and a little bit of support, really. But I think it's also really important that students accept as well that they're not going to have a period in life where nothing will happen or they feel great all the time. The amount of students that come along and are waiting to start their degree until they've got this period in life that it's going to be fine for 3 years, and you just think if we could just normalize that okay, you won't always feel great in terms of mental health and well-being, but that's normalized to have that support in the same way for physical periods of ailment, really.
Yeah, and when I teach my students, I tell them about this, that is it's a bit like a physical fitness course. It is a mental fitness course. And there are exercises that we can do. Like earlier, in the beginning, I was talking about reframing, finding meaning in events, finding meaning in things that we do. The emotional agility that Susan David talks about are skills that develop with practice, and like physical fitness, when it is interesting, isn't it? When people talk about physical health, they don't talk about diabetes and heart disease. But when they talk about mental health, they talk about depression and OCD and, and AD, when actually, we need to be talking about those exercises that we can be doing because they're going to, one, protect us from getting ill. And two, when we are ill, it is going to happen, when we are struggling a little bit, then it's going to give us the tools to bounce back up quicker, like physical exercise. Yeah.
Fabulous presentation. Thank you so much for that. Really enjoyed it. Okay.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Viv. V. Really appreciated, and I know this was your 10% braver. So we're looking forward to hearing lots more from you about this important piece of work that you're doing, and looking forward to working with you in future.
Oh, thank you, Lizanna. Thank you so much for the chance to do this.